We will begin with the opening prayers. You can all hear me, right? Can you hear me? I think you probably can't hear me. Please wait a moment. Can you hear me? Please raise your hands if you can hear me. So today I need to be the chant master.
罗边之三间罗巴拉修，上次我的姐姐是我的姐夫也来给姐说，给我就是那个介绍吧，他们家那个上就是我。所以必须出现面多的，这是为了新年的演吧。上节线都没得表演，这个难道先老这不拉说？今天那个上班的落叶接着接着，其中对梦的不也却给过了过多是。天地对别去，这边也你把对吧？这当地就来一个到那女生给什么那都没，之后给这个他们这个都那个学的都，身边事情这个人这个也得行动，正好身边说一些个都顶到没别都见着呀，那么了这。谢谢了，一人给我儿子这边我都女生的老婆，因为他妈跟那是什么个月人不见了这样子，反正都是小孩儿说那么干嘛。经过跟你说的这些边就是他们那种把吃的东西全部让你用别人就来了，那就这些这边让面都是给我了这，关键在那么人不接，打给就是边面点就了，跟联系没有关系，不是说都因为这咋都是，他说打这里啊。number link sing多sing 多
Now you can all hear me, right? Today I'm using a new microphone. The other day, I pushed some wrong button and you probably couldn't hear what I was doing. It's saying in the second session the other day. So today I'm using a new microphone. So first of all, I would like to wish all of you greetings with wishes for auspiciousness and your good health. Today is the 8th day of our winter teachings. So today I will continue where we left off the other day. And we will speak about the spread of the mind only in Tibet. We can call it the spread of the mind only in Tibet or the spread of the mind only treatises in Tibet. Now, the other day I divided this into several sections. And when dividing them into sections, then there are 6 different. Yesterday I had 5 sections, but I've added an extra one. The last one is the connections between the Shentong and the mind only. So tomorrow, I think I'll describe a second section. So actually, I got a little bit hurried in my division into different topics, and so doing it in a short time. Since I have to do all my preparations in a very short time, I think it's a little bit difficult. So actually, wait a moment, please. So generally, I've said quite a bit about the origins of the five dharmas of Maitreya in the past few days, so I don't need to explain much more about this. But one thing we do need to pay attention to is that the Indian treatises and the Tenjurtas seem to have differing explanations of the origins of the dharmas of Maitreya. For example, Acharya Haribhadra writes in his commentary on the 8,000-line Prajnaparamita that says that Noble Asanga had realized the entire meaning of the scriptures. Actually, there's a little mistake in the words there. And if I don't correct it, it's not good. Is that he had not fully realized both the meanings and the words of the Prajnaparamita Sutras. He's a little bit unhappy about this, or unsatisfied. I'm not sure if you can see this clearly. Now you can see what I'm showing, right? Okay. Sometimes it seems that when I share a screen with you, I can see it, but you can't. So in addition to being dissatisfied, Maitreya then taught the explanation of the sutras and wrote the root, that is, the verses, the ornament of the sutras. So Maitreya wrote this, and then Sangha heard that, and then he and Vasubandu then taught it. So this is one explanation of how Maitreya wrote the five dharmas of Maitreya. And then there was Abhayakara. So Abhayakara Gupta writes in his Pitha, the Moonlight, that after the Buddha passed into nirvana, so there was the one who was the protector of the Dharmakaya of the Buddha, in general, the protector of his actual kaya was, and so he and Vajrapana wished to compile the Prajnaparamita. So Maitreya and the other bodhisattvas gathered and compiled the Prajnaparamita. However, the meaning of the Prajnaparamita is too difficult and profound to be realized. So in order that people can realize that Maitreya wrote the root text of the Ornament of Clear Realization. So for this reason, Haribhadra's explanation that it was written at a later time because of Masanga is mistaken. So Abhayakara Gupta is refuting Haribhadra. Now, another explanation is that Maitreya taught it, did write it later, but it's that he taught it later to a Sangha. So there's also another explanation of that. So there are also people who hold this position. No, so basically saying that Haribhadra was not correct. So if we look within the Tenjurta itself, even within the Sanskrit text and the Tenjur, there are many different positions. And so it is important for us to research this as well. Now, yesterday I spoke quite a bit about which school the Dharmas of Maitreya belong to, but I thought I might give more of an explanation or clarify it today. Now, regarding which school the debates of Dharmas of Maitreya belong to, whether they're middle way or mind only, there's not much debate in India or China, but there was a lot of debate in Tibet. It was a great debate, and because of this, there are many different explanations. Now, the most generally accepted position is basically there are three different positions, primarily three. There's one that saying that they're a mixture of mind only middle way, that they're all middle way, or that they're all mind only. So there are these three primary explanations. Now, the generally accepted one is the idea that they are a mixture of mind only and middle way. And so who is it who holds this position? It's Ngot Lo Tsao Loden Sherab, Cha Chomden Rikral, the all-knowing Rangton, and Gorampa, and most other scholars assert that they are both a mixture of mind-only and middle-way view. And so how is it that they are mixed? It's that the ornament of clear realization is the middle-way view, the ornament of the sutras, differentiating the middle from extremes, and distinguishing phenomena and dharmata. Now, so these are the Mahayana sutras and their views of the three natures. The ornament of the sutras and the differentiating the middle of the streams, the distinguishing phenomena and dharmata are mind only, and the sublime continuum is middle way. So this is the generally accepted position. So this is what I have been explaining. Now, what it says in the commentary on the Entering the Middle Way by Mikidorte, the chariot of the cities of practice lineage, he gives a quotation from Sanjay Nyempa, which he says is that the five Dharmas of Maitreya are proven to be commentaries on the meaning of the words of all of the Mahayana of cause and result. Now, the middle three, it's not so that they don't teach the ways of the middle way on the side, but explicitly there are teachers, particularly in the mind only. Now, the first Dharma of Maitreya is common to both middle way and mind only, and the last Dharma of Maitreya is his treatise common to both Sutra and Tantra, he said. So if you look at this, is very similar to the generally accepted. So it's a position that that they mix the mind only middle way positions. Now, who is it who say that it is all middle way? As we say in Tibetan, that Parochamita comes down to the yak, and so the yak means yak mipam churajaso. So that's him, dolpo shurajasan, penchen shakya chokten. And most other Shanton advocates, what they say is that all five of the Maitreya's Dharmas of Maitreya are middle way in their view. And so this is the position that asserts that they are all middle way. And then there's also the position that says that they're all mind only. And who is that? Or what is that tradition? It's Rendawa Shuddhaloda wrote in his, there is a text in his collected works called The Dialogue with the Greatly Loving Abbot. And what it says is, Asanga Vasubandu and their followers taught that the dharmas of Maitreya are mind only. And if one, and so this is what is said in the dharmas. And so if you teach that they are not to be mind only, then the same as saying that the teachings, that the works of Asanga, Vedanta, and Vasubandu are not mind only. That is what you would have to say. And if you say that, then you won't find anyone who upholds the mind-only school. You won't find any mind-only texts. So it's the danger that this would happen, he says. Likewise, there is also dialogues with Lama Urza Gyaltsam, which is also a work by Rendao. What he says is, of the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, what is the assertion of the clear realization is middle way? And the other 4 are mandala. So when he was asked about this, so this is the question that he was given, the answer was given. If they're middle way, then they should be equally middle way. And if they're mind only, there should be equally mind only. So they can't say that some are middle way, some are mind only. If they're all the same. So if they're mind only, they all have to be middle way. If they're mind only, they all have to be mind only. You can't say that there's some who are both. So this is how it is explained in the traditions of Arya Vimuktasena and Haribhadra. Again, I had a typo. So most of the earlier Tibetan masters also explained it in this way, that it is a mixture of them. There's the tradition among Tibetan scholars is saying that they're a mixture of mind only and middle way, but Rendao thought that this was not logical. Thus, there were people such as Rendawa who considered that all of the dharmas of Maitreya were mind only. There were people such as this in Tibet. But it seems that from one perspective, there are very few who considered that all of the dharmas of Maitreya were mind only. So this is discussing where the view of the 5 dharmas of Maitreya fit, whether mind only or middle way. And of the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, what commentaries are on the 5 dharmas of Maitreya? Now, among the dharmas of Maitreya, there are commentaries for the ornament of the sutras. There are commentaries by Asanga and Vasubandu. Differentiating the middle extremes, there's a commentary by Vasubandu. For differentiating phenomena and dharmata, Vasubandu wrote a commentary. And for the sublime continuum, there is the commentary by Asanga. Now, this is well known in Tibet to be accepted in Tibet to be the Asanga. But later, modern researchers have done a lot of examination as to whether it's actually written by Asanga or not. And so I will discuss this more later when I talk about the sublime continuum. Now, but there is also debate as to whether there is a commentary in Vasubandhu about the ornament or liberation, the clear realization. It is difficult to say categorically that there was a commentary on the ornament of clear realization that was written by Asanga and Vasubandhu. Now, if we were speaking about the commentaries on the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, on the 5 days of Maitreya, there are what we call about the 20 Indian commentaries. Now, generally, if we speak about these 20 commentaries, I think most of you in the, if I speak about the different, there are many different Indian commentaries. And if I speak about all of these commentaries, they're well known in the Shadras. And if I speak about it, it just gets too complicated. And so I think since basically you already know, there's no point in me saying it. At first, I thought that if I spoke about it, it'd be beneficial, but then I thought that there's no point, that it would just be boring. No, but among them, the point about this section is that among all the different Indian commentaries on the works of Maitreya. We talk about those that combine the the sutras and the sutras and the ornaments. There are the ones by Arya Vimuktasena that include. It is said that traditionally that there was a text by the there was a tradition that says that there's a story. The layperson named Shanti Varman brought the 25,008 chapter sutra from Potala to Varanasi. So Maitreya told Artashota to go to the east. So he went and the two met. And then he wrote the ornament on the clear realization called the Light of the 25,000. And so then in this way, he combined the sutra on the 25,000 with the ornament of clear realization and wrote his commentary. And so primarily, whether we're talking about there are these commentaries that combine the ornament of clear realization with the 100,000 line sutra, the 25,000 line, and the 8,000 line sutras, and the other sutras. So these are the ones that said to join the ornament of the sutras. Now, the most powerful of the commentaries is Haribhadra's short commentary with clear meaning. And the reason why this is the most powerful commentary on this is that we often talk about the mother and child sutras. That is the 20. Sometimes we say they're 20. Sometimes we say they're 17. And when we're talking about these sutras during the time of King Desan, most of these are already translated. And so because they were mostly translated during the time of Trisong Detsen, there is a tradition of saying that there are only 20 such Prajnaparamita sutras, but later some people were saying that it was not definitely only 17 sutras, Prajnaparamita sutras, and they made the refutations. And the reason why they is there are the Vajra, the Sutra of Vajradhvaja and other sutras that were not included within the 17 sutras of Prajnaparamita. And so however, if we look at this, during the time of the Tibetan Empire, we say that the 17 Prajnaparamita sutras are translated, but I don't think that they said that there were only 17 sutras. However, at that time, those 17 sutras became generally accepted. So scholars then said that it was just certainly those. Certainly only that number, but I don't think that it was saying that it was necessarily only 17 sutras. The Vajradhvaja Sutra and others were translated later during the time of Bhutan Rinpoche. And so there's a difference of earlier and later between these two. And so it's important for us to understand the difference between earlier and later and the earlier and later translations. But in brief, when we talk about we don't need to speak about too many of the commentaries of the commentary on the Ornament of Realization, but if we talk about the commentaries on the other Dharmas and Matras, there is Svabhibha's long commentary on it. There's Staramita's excellent commentary on the Ornament of the Sutras, which is like a sub-commentary on Vasubandhu's commentary. There's also an explanation of the first two stanzas of the Ornament of the Sutras by Master Parahita. And there's also the summary of the Ornament of the Sutras by the Kashmir Mahapandita Sri Janabhadra. So these are the Indian commentaries on the Ornament of the Sutras. Likewise, there is also an explanation of the differentiating by the middle explains by Stiramati, which is also a sub-commentary of Vasubandu's commentary. And now I think for the others. Now, what Chomden Rinzha says is that if we have the five the five sections of the levels of Asanga. There are the two or the two continuums, the ones that which refer to the compendium of Mahayana and the compendium of Abhidharma primarily. So these were taught by Maitreya, and then Asanga then compiled them. So there's this way of this is explained among among many scholars, and then there are the Vasubandhu's commentary, Asanga's commentary on the meaning, and as well as then there are also Vasubandhu's 8 treatises, including the treatise proving karma, the 30th and so forth. So the 8 prakaranas are treatises. And so these are called the 20 dharmas related to Maitreya, but that is a Tibetan term. Perhaps you've heard this term. Now, maybe you know this term or maybe not. Now, the way we count these 20 dharmas related to Maitreya is that you've got the 2 ornaments, that is the ornament of the sutras and the ornament of clear realizations. Those are the 2 ornaments. When we talk about the 2 ornaments, and then we have the 2 differentiatings. These are the distinguishing dharma and dharmata, and differentiating the middle from extremes, and then the sublime continuum. And then, in addition, the 5 sections of those are the 5 dharmas of Maitreya. Then you have the 5 sections of the Bodhisattva of the Yogacara levels, and then the 2 compendiums, which I mentioned before, the compendium of Mahayana and compendium of Asanga. And then there are Vasubandhu's 8 treatises, and if we sum these all up, there are 20. So these are called the 20 dharmas related to Maitreya. Now, the 8 prakarana are treatises of Vasubandhu, or if we can call them 8 treatises in English. These are the 20 verses, the 30 verses, the treatise proving karma, the treatise on the 5 aggregates, and the commentary on the interdependence. Now, the commentary on the Sutra of Interdependence, some commentators include this instead of this, this commentary on the differentiating phenomena dharmata, but Buddha Rinpoche said Jetsun and say that that the tradition is to include the commentary on the Sutra of Interdependence among the 8 treatises. And there's also the commentary on differentiating the middle from explains, and the commentary on the ornament of clear realization. But what it says in Dharanata's History of Dharma in India is that we do say that they're called the 8 treatises or the 8 prakarana, but he says that it's difficult to call the commentaries on the interdependence and differentiating the middle of expense and the ornament of spells. These are all commentaries on the words, and so it's difficult to call them treatises of prakarana. Likewise, we said talk about the proving karma and karma, the 5 aggregates, the 20 verses and the 30 verses, and some of these are called by the name of prakarana, and some are not. So it's not okay to include them all. If something is a prakarana, it's given the name prakarana or treatise, he says. In any case, as I explained before, Chomden said that the name of the names of the 20 dharmas related to Maitreya and the 5 dharmas of Maitreya are names that were given by Tibetans, that were not in use in India. So this is another point that we need to investigate. Now, if you ask, what were the earliest Tibetan commentaries on the 5 dharmas of Maitreya? When they were translating the texts of the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, this primarily is possible Tsawa and Tsawa went to India, and Ngotlo Tsawa and Tsankawache went to India to study the five dharmas of Maitreya, right? And Sankacha was actually he then went to India. Now, he's at a very advanced stage at that time. Now, what he said is that the five Maitreya are practice texts, actually. They're really helpful for practice. And so he was in China. At that time, there was someone called Sugawa Dorje. And Tsankawache taught him, and he gave Tsankawache treatings, and then Tsankawache took notes of these and wrote a commentary, it is said. And at the same time, there's Pema Senge, who was a translator, and he also followed Senzano as his guru, and he also took notes, or he wrote a long commentary on the ornament of the ornament of the sutras, but this is no longer extant. However, this is generally accepted to be the early. So generally, when we talk about the earliest accepted commentary, this is the one written by the great Ngotlo Tsawa. And what the commentaries he wrote are first the ornament of the commentary on the ornament of clear realization. He wrote a summary of it and a long explanation. He also wrote and he also wrote commentaries of the ornament of the sutras, the sublime communion, and the differentiating the middle from extremes, and differentiating dharma and phenomena dharmata. So he wrote summaries of each of these and an explanation of both. But so these include the earliest commentaries on the five dharmas of Maitreya. Similarly, if we think about those who actually taught and who propagated the teachings of the five dharmas of Maitreya, then there is a translation that was passed down from Tsankawache, as I mentioned the other day. Now, the tradition of Tsankawache is called the Tsen tradition, or the meditation tradition of the five dharmas of Maitreya. So there was this lineage, but it seems that the lineage was later broken. The current transmissions are mainly passed down from Ngotlo Tsawa Lodon Sherab. Now, he instituted what we'd say the first. And so if you ask, is it the first first Tibetan Shudra, it would be what is called the Tibetan Nalanda Shomboche. Now, this would be, say, the very first of the Tibetan Shudras, and there were quite a few scholars who came from there. And these, the masters, the scholars there studied primarily the ornament clear realization as well as the other, and they taught it extensively, and it spread very widely. And so the transmission from Ngotlo Tsawa Lodon Sherab was a very beneficial for the tradition of the dharmas of Maitreya. It's not just for the traditions of the mind of the dharmas of Maitreya, but also for Middle Way and the other texts. So it's like extremely influential in Tibet. It's establishing a community of study and establishing tradition of study and propagating the study are very important. So this is actually all of our practice lineages of study of these texts come from this are very influenced by this tradition. This is very important, and so but later we think that we think that all of our own traditions are important. The Kaiji tradition, the Sakya traditions are very important, and so forth. But if we think about what the early phase, when it was just beginning, during the ancient translation, the later translation, there are because they worked tirelessly to start start the study, they laid the foundation for everything to turn out well and flourish for us. Without them, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be here. Just because of their kindness at the beginning, the kindness of people such as Ngotlod and Shutup and his disciples. So that was the discussion of the earliest commentaries of the five dharmas of Maitreya. So next, the sixth point is about the commentaries on the Shentong and mind only, the relation between the mind only and the Shentong. Now, this is rather complicated, actually. And if I'm not careful about how I speak, then there's a danger that I'll really offend someone. But we have to understand that right now we're having discussions. And we're like gathering different questions to consider. I'm not speaking categorically, and this is something you have to understand. If you think that I am speaking like I've decided something and teaching in that way, that's not how it is. But I do think it is important to speak about the relations between the Shentong and the mind only. But before we speak about the connection between the two, we need to understand what is the Shentong. What is the difference between Shentong and Rangtong? It's important for us to understand this. But to speak about the difference between the Rangtong and Shentong in detail in a short time is very difficult, but to do what I can. But generally in Tibet, there later developed the tradition of dividing the middle way into the Rangtong and the Shentong views. Now, when we say Rangtong, what we mean by Rangtong is a view that emphasizes the thought of Nagarjuna and root verses of middle way and the Chandrakirtis entering the middle way. I think it's okay to identify like that. Then when we say Shentong, then we say the view that emphasizes the sublime continuum and the rest of the five dharmas of Maitreya, that if you say that those are the Shentong, then that's fine. So to explain the meaning of the words Rangtong and Shentong, then there's a lot of complicated things to say, and if we speak about it in detail, but to talk about it in a simpler way, an easy to understand way, those who assert that all phenomena are empty of their own essence or empty of true existence, the people who assert this are called Rangtong. And those who assert that the essence of Buddha nature is unstained by or empty of adventitious stains, but at the same time, Buddha nature is not empty of its own essence, these masters are called the Shentong. And I think explaining it in this way is probably acceptable. When we talk about the Shentong view, then first, there's a history that comes from Tsenkao Che. There's this explanation of the sublime continuum. He emphasized this, and because of that, it said that it's because of his emphasis on the sublime continuum that the Shentong view developed. Then later, Karmapa Rongjun Dorje also emphasized the Shentong view. Later, after that, Dolpo Bashiro Gyaltsen determined an entire presentation of the ground path and fruition and founded an independent school, a Shunta school. And this is what later became known as the Chonang school. And so the primary sutra view of the Chonang school is the Shentong view. Now, I've already mentioned how Rongjun Dorje was related to the Shentong. So now, Rongjun Dorje's explanation of the Shentong was actually earlier than Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen's. And if we look at it in terms of the history, Dolpopo went to visit Karmapa Rongjun Dorje, and they had many discussions about the view. Now, at that time, Rongjun Dorje held the Shentong position, and Dolpo Sherab Gyaltsen held the Rangtong position. So at that point, he was still Rangtong. He was not yet a Shentong. And Rongjun Dorje at that point, he was already holding the Shentong view. So this is before Dolpo Shoto Jessen became a Shentong. And at that time, Kamba Ranjin Dorje was holding the Shentong position. So Ranjin Dorje held the Shentong position, and Dolpo Shoto Jessen held the Rangtong position. They had a lot of discussion. I think they must have had some debate or disputes. Then Ranjin Dorje, what he said was, so right now, you're rebutting me. You're refuting my Shentong view. But in the future, there'll come a time when you will have to uphold the school of the Shentong. It's like he was giving like a prediction. So this is probably accepted by the Jonang school, and it's in the old Karmakaji texts. Now, when we look at this account, before Dolpopa became Shentong, Rangjin Dorje already had become Shentong. And so Rangjin Dorje must have had some degree of influence on Dolpopa becoming Shentong. And I'm not saying that Dolpopa Jessen became Shentong because of Rangjin Dorje, but I am saying that it must have had some degree of influence on Dolpo Shoto Jessen. I think it must have made some sort of impression on him. And I think if you say that, I think it's okay. So now we're going to take a 30-minute intermission.